thank you all very much. This is great. These are our friends. We have thousands of friends on this incredible movement.
Today we're talking about what a second Donald Trump term would mean for the freight market. From tariffs and trade policy to environmental standards and energy policy, Trump's potential moves could impact every corner of the logistics world. Let's dive into how his administration's policies are going to shake things up for trucking, warehousing, freight forwarding, and beyond. Now, before we hop in, tell us what you think. How will Trump's second term impact the freight market, in your opinion? Let's start with energy policy. One of Trump's key goals has always been to boost domestic oil production. This drill baby drill approach aims to lower oil prices, potentially bringing costs down to $40 to $50 per barrel. For trucking companies, that's absolutely huge. Lower fuel costs would mean a lower operational expense, which would mean diesel trucks would be more attractive and would probably slow down the industry's push towards electric vehicles. Now, if fuel prices drop, it could also ease parts of inflation and also help with interest rates, which would also help with stimulating consumer demand. And you know what that means. Increased freight volumes. More demand is good for transportation. Trump's stance on tariffs, especially with China, could mean some major changes. His administration is considering tariffs as high as 10 to 20% on all imported goods, with even steeper tariffs on Chinese imports. Now, Lorianne LaRocco, CNBC's senior editor for business news and a key voice in global supply chain reporting, recently shared some powerful insights over on LinkedIn. She noted that logistics executives are already seeing a spike in calls to pull forward freight, similar to the demand surge we saw back in 2018. As Lorianne put it, the trade war has never gone away. It's become a way of life. This ongoing battle over tariffs and trade policy is reshaping logistics as we know it. The more companies compete for limited vessel and container space, the more it drives up rates and pressures the capacity. So LaRocco also pointed out that supply chain management and logistics are not going out of the news anytime soon. In fact, the struggle over the box, which is the valuable container space, is about to heat up even more. She predicts that companies with strong, integrated logistics services will have a deep competitive edge, and they'll be able to capitalize on easy touch points that they control. Now, this could disrupt global supply chains and lead to more manufacturing back here in the US or to nearby countries like Mexico, which we've already seen a pretty tremendous nearshoring boom. For the trucking industry, this could initially boost freight demand as companies continue to, rush and bring goods in, just like Lorianne was saying, before those tariffs hit. But in the long run, it may mean higher prices for both businesses and consumers as the production starts to shift closer to home. More local production could also drive up the demand for warehousing and for domestic transportation. One of the more controversial topics is environmental regulation. Trump's administration is likely to roll back many of the emission standards from the previous administration, and this could mean pretty big savings for trucking companies as they're going to face, fewer requirements for costly equipment upgrades. But this could also create some longer-term challenges for the administration. Some states like California, they do and they may keep stricter standards, potentially creating like a patchwork of different regulations all across the United States. And it could definitely complicate things for, national fleets and some of these regional fleets. And it could definitely slow the industry's adoption towards electric vehicles. Now, on the infrastructure front, Trump is likely to push for even more deregulation. He's already discussed reviving the 2-for-1 rule, which requires 2 old regulations to be removed with the addition of any new regulation. For trucking, this could mean relaxed rules around things like speed limiters, and potentially brokers could try to get in on this and see if they could push for some deregulation on things like broker transparency. Less regulation might cut some of that red tape, but it's also going to raise some concerns, I think, around safety and compliance, and kind of all these different aspects. Now, there's another factor I've kind of been skirting around, which is something that's coming up pretty quickly in January. It's the ongoing ILA strike, or the International Longshoremen's Association strike that we saw with the ports a couple of months ago. That could happen again if association doesn't get a new master deal in place before January 15th. And without agreements, we could see some serious disruptions to U.S. port operations, not only impacting the trucking industry, but the entire supply chain. And this is where Trump's policies really might come into play. With his administration's emphasis on deregulation, there's talk that Trump could push for policies encouraging supply chain automation. And this is exactly what the ILA is fighting against for its members, so that they can make sure that they have long tenured jobs and they're not, fighting off the robots for these positions. And obviously, automation could really help stabilize operations at the ports and in warehouses. But with the current ILAs, negotiating, it's not looking like that is going to happen. Or if that is pushed, we could see another potential strike. However, these investments are very costly, and they vary depending on the scale of each company's operations. So in addition to the cost savings and deregulation, Trump's policies might encourage businesses to invest even further into automation to create a more resilient supply chain. Now, another key issue is classification of independent contractors. Donald Trump's administration has traditionally supported the owner-operator model, which means contractors could continue to work independently. However, there are some changes that could spark legal battles, especially from labor groups. Now, Donald Trump does have a lot of support in the trucking industry, especially among truck drivers and freight brokers, especially because a lot of them are small business owners and independent owner-operators who just view his policies as very pro-business. Now, lower costs and lower regulations is a big win for them, but the road ahead is definitely complex. What's the key takeaway here? Trump's second term could bring some real benefits for domestic logistics with lower fuel costs, relaxed environmental standards, and fewer regulations. But tariffs and a shift away from global logistics may have mixed results, especially for freight forwarders who deal with international freight and air cargo. But in the end, only time can tell if Trump's policies will sustain growth within our industry. But one thing's for sure, this second term will be one to watch for all of those within the industry. If you found our deep dive helpful, make sure you hit that like button and the subscribe button for more insights into trucking and logistics and for freight brokers. And we'd love to hear from you guys. We'd love to hear from the audience. What are your thoughts on Donald Trump's second term and what he's going to impact on the freight market? We'll catch you guys in the next video, and don't forget to think freight.